Welcome to the TEL Labs Optical LAN installation video, Commissioning Wizard. The purpose of this video is to introduce and outline the process of using the Commissioning Wizard as part of the initial installation of a TEL Labs Optical LAN system. The topics covered in this video will be an overview of the Commissioning Wizard feature in the Panorama EMS, and a step-by-step process for using the Commissioning Wizard prior to adding the first OLT to the EMS. OLTs are initially provisioned using a turn-up process. This process provides a management IP, VLAN, and uplink for the OLT. After the turn-up has been executed, the OLT will not be allowed to be provisioned for services until it has been added to the Panorama EMS. When the TEL Labs Optical LAN OLT is added to the Panorama EMS for the first time, the OLT goes through a commissioning process. This process provisions settings for the OLT. The OLT Commissioning Wizard is an application in the Panorama client that sets up all of the default port profiles to be applied going forward. It also provides some basic defaults for ONTs and OLTs through default templates. The OLT Commissioning Wizard is typically only run prior to the creation of the first OLTs. To launch the Commissioning Wizard in Panorama, go to Tools, Wizard, Commissioning. Running the Commissioning Wizard can potentially change the default profiles, and it would affect existing OLTs that use these profiles. If an OLT has already been added to the EMS, the system emits a warning to remind you that this action is potentially service affecting. Commissioning Wizard opening screen presents some high-level options. These options control high-level behavior and what is visible for configuration later. The ONT configuration model provides options for PON behaviors. If auto provisioning is selected, the ONTs will be auto-accepted onto the PON without having to enter the serial number. Manual configuration requires the user to enter each serial number or use the unexpected ONT menu for adding ONTs. Selecting Radius 8021X authentication enables port-based authentication. 8021X authentication requires the user to authenticate to the Radius server prior to giving access to the port. Asset management lets the system know that LDP will be used to discover the information about neighbors that are attached to UniPorts via the LDP protocol. VLAN configuration lets the system know that LLDP will be used to send the VLAN configuration to neighboring devices using LLDP. This is a common method to configure voice-over IP phones with the voice-over IP VLAN ID. Select Use VoIP phones to enable LLDP on all UniPorts. This will enable these devices to be inventoried and managed through LLDP functions. Use Sticky Mac as source is used to provide a convenient way to allow the user to create new ACL filters with Sticky Mac as the source. Sticky Mac will learn the first MAC address it sees and then use that MAC as a permit filter on the port. The Equipment Profile screen will allow the user to define the minimum and maximum ONT ID to be used on ONT auto configuration. The selected range will be used to assign to ONTs when they are discovered on the PON and ONT auto configuration is enabled. The DSCP mapping profile will define the DSCP to P-bit mapping, which will be applied to all ONTs. This defines the relationship between Layer 3 QoS markings on ingress and the Layer 2 802.1p P-bit that will be placed onto the upstream packet. There are 6 profiles that affect the behaviors of the access ports on the ONTs: Ethernet port, PoE, RSTP, PAE, NAC, and LLDP. If Radius port authentication and LLDP are selected in the high-level functions, these features will be enabled in the default profile. Other detailed changes may be made here to be applied to the default profiles. The Service Profile section deals specifically with the ACL used on the default service profiles. Here, Sticky Mac ACL has already been created. Other ACLs can be added if needed. The equipment templates deal with the default ONT configurations. These rules apply when new ONTs are added to the system. This template only deals with non-Ethernet associated rules. The OLT Templates section deals with the LLDP attributes for the OLT. Admin state can be set to disabled, transmit, receive, or both. Settings can be reviewed by selecting the back button. If all the settings are satisfactory, click on the Confirm and Apply button. Now, when new OLTs are added, they will be established with these settings in place. In this video, we have discussed an overview of the Commissioning Wizard features in the Panorama EMS, and a step-by-step process for using the Commissioning Wizard prior to adding the first OLT to the EMS.